but losing $1 million, losing a world championship, it sucked, man. I was down. But then I started thinking about, like, if that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, how blessed am I?
Joining me now, this guy will take on Rob Wilkinson in June, PFL, second round of the light heavyweight tournament or Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it. He is Josh Silveira. Josh, thanks for joining me today, man.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
How's it
sir.
going?
How's it going?
Good to be
Not
here.
bad, not bad. Yeah, you know what? I wanted to say right off the hop here, I didn't really want to like you, man, because your last LFA fight, you actually beat a buddy of mine, Jared Ravel. So I was like, damn, do I really want to talk to this guy? But that was a hell of a performance, and it got you sort of catapulted to where you are today. Let's go back to that then. Talk about LFA. Like, you had a hell of a run with LFA that pushed you forward into PFL.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
LFA was a
man. LFA
blessing.
was a blessing.
Um, Obviously, double
Obviously,
champion
double
there
champion
was
there was
helping me.
helping me,
Get me to the big
get me to the
level.
big level.
Um,
Um,
Usually people like to
Usually
go
people
through
like
like
to go through like
LFA and they want to go
LFA and
straight
they
to the
want to
big
go straight
show.
to the big show.
And
And
I used
I use
LFA as
LFA as
to take my
to take
time.
my time. You know,
I would get a bunch of
I would get a bunch
offers,
of
but I would just
offers, but
kind of
I would just
deny them
kind of deny them
and just keep building
and
my
just keep
record.
building my
And
record. And
now we're here.
now we're here. All right, before we get talking fights, then I gotta ask the hair, man, the mullet. What, like,
Yeah, yeah.
you see guys with mullets nowadays, and what was the idea behind that? Like, what were there guys that you watched and you were like, damn, that mullet looks so sweet. I got to do that with my hair.
I think it
I
was
think it was
just something
just
new for me
something
to
new
have
for
long
me to
hair.
have long hair.
I think it was like a
I think
kind
it
of
was
like a
like a kind of
joke
like a
at first,
joke
and
at
then it ended
first,
up
and then it
becoming
ended up
like, whoa,
becoming like, whoa,
let's run with it.
let's run with it. Fair enough. Now, you at PFL, you went through the Challenger Series. I want to go way back though. I want to talk to you. Like, obviously, you grew up in the sport. Your father, the coach at ATT, like you were obviously like on the mats from a very early age, and this might have been talked about a ton in other interviews, but prefacing, I don't want to watch other interviews. I want to hear it from the man himself. So I want to sort of go back and talk about your early upbringings and your first sort of memories of martial arts. Just bring me back to when you were a kid and seeing it all for the first time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
So
So
just growing up
just
in
growing up
a
in a
really a jujitsu gym
jujitsu gym
first.
first,
I just
I just
remember
remember
like the gi
like the
being a part of
gi
my
being a
life.
part of my life.
Seeing so many
Seeing
people with
so many
gis
people with
on,
gis on,
and having a
and
tons of
having a tons
uncles,
of
right?
uncles, right?
And
And
just kind of
just
growing
kind of
up in that
growing up in
environment, I
the
thought
environment, I
everybody
thought
knew it at
everybody
first.
knew it at first.
And then I
And then I
realized,
realized,
whoa,
oh,
uh,
this
this is something
something
very
very, very
private, I guess,
private,
right?
I guess,
It
right?
wasn't as
It wasn't
big as
as
what I
big
thought it
as
was
what
as
I
a
thought it
kid.
was as a kid.
But
But
I always had
I
a
always
feeling
had
that
a
I wanted to
feeling
do
that I
this,
wanted to do this,
but I
but
wasn't
I wasn't
necessarily
necessarily
sure
sure
if
if
if that was
that
something
was
that I
something
really
that I
wanted to
really
do. And
wanted
then
to
I
do. And
realized,
I
like,
realized,
wow,
like, wow,
I'm pretty good at
pretty
this.
good at this.
And just
And
growing up in the
just growing up
environment
in the
with a
environment
bunch of
with a bunch of
Brazilians,
Brazilians,
um,
um,
I just fell in love
I
with it,
just fell in
man.
love with it, man. You know, so you grew up as a jujitsu guy to start. Was that your? Did you compete in jujitsu competitions growing up? Then was that like the whole foundation of
Yeah,
it? Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
I
So
would go to the
I would go
gym
to the gym
practice, and then I would
practice,
do
and then I would do
Naga tournaments,
Naga tournaments,
and then
and then from there,
from there I
from there,
basically
I
just
basically just
went into
went into
wrestling, and then I
wrestling, and
realized
then I
I was like,
realized I was
this is gonna help me out with my MMA career. So then I kind of took off with wrestling, and that kind of helped me. Um, that basically helped me. How would I say this? That helped me kind of determine my path to MMA. You know,
do you still train in the gi?
I haven't in a while.
Fair
Yeah,
enough. Could we see you in grappling competitions once this whole like MMA thing? We do sometimes see guys dabble in, EBIs and all that kind of stuff. Could we see you hit the grappling mats again?
for sure, man, for sure. I'm a competitor at heart. I love competing. Um, I would love to do one of those grappling tournaments like the Chael Sonnen one, or I'm not sure what it's called.
Yeah, Submission Underground. They don't do those anymore, really. Since the UFC Fight Pass Invitational sort of came about, Chael stopped doing the Submission Underground, I think. So it is a Fight Pass Invitational thing, but like they typically have, an MMA guy against a really good grappling guy like Craig Jones or Gordon, who's sort of out of it until ADCC now. But could you see yourself doing something like that?
For sure, for sure. I definitely would definitely look into that. I wish I could do some of it right now. Just the PFL season is so stacked, man. You're fighting every 8 weeks. You don't necessarily have time to do that, but I would love to compete and grapple, man. Take it back to the old days.
Yeah, I started actually. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. I started competing again. I competed as a white belt. I competed as a blue belt. I took purple belt off, and then I got back into it as a brown belt. And it was mostly to try and get my students to get back there on the mats and try to sort of from the top down. I haven't competed as a black belt yet, but the goal is still to get back out there on the mats this year at some point in 2024 and compete. But let's talk about PFL regular season then. Is this something like when you got into PFL, you started with Challenger Series, then moved up, then you got into the tournament and the regular season and stuff like that. Did you realize it was going to be as much of a grind as it is?
You as a fighter, we're always like, yeah, man, I got this, and then you realize you're like, well, oh my gosh, this is like 7 months, 8 months, and then you see some of the UFC guys, they're fighting once or twice a year, they're taking time off, they're traveling, and I'm like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? But I love it, man. I love it. In the wrestling world, I wrestled for Arizona State, so the wrestling season is about 6 to 7 months, right? You're going from October all the way to March. So it's something that I'm used to. Obviously, I'm not a young guy anymore, man. So you have to learn and pick your battles in the gym. Some days it's not always going to be the best days, but it's your responsibility to show up.
As a wrestler, I guess you're sort of always used to, being ready and on weight, and that's what you have to do for these seasons. Now, last year you fell short to Impa Kasanganai. I wanted to touch on that fight before we move forward to this season and just talk about what you took away from that. Like you as a human being, not necessarily you as a fighter, falling short in the finals. Like what did you take away from that fight as a person, not even as a fighter?
Yeah, man. Great question. So I would say two main things. There's many things I took away from that fight, but as a person, two main things. Going back to that first conversation about me growing up in MMA, me growing up in jiu-jitsu, and kind of like me being an MMA baby, right? My whole life, um, this was the goal. This is the dream. This is my image. Me thinking that I'm a fighter. I was destined to be this. And when I lost that fight to Impa, I took a step back and realized that fighting is just something I do, something that's just been involved in my life. I appreciate it. I love it, but I'm more than just a fighter. I'm a whole other person. So I think just taking a step back and enjoying life, being appreciative. The PFL season will make you go kind of crazy sometimes, and you'll kind of forget about who you are, like not just as a fighter, but as a person. So that was one big takeaway. It took me 31 years, 31 years to realize this is not your life. It's just something you do, and that kind of helped me enjoy coming back from that loss a little bit. Like, hey, it's okay. Things happen. We go. The thing is, I compete. I took the risk and I lost, but it's doesn't change who I am. Doesn't, I'm not gonna quit fighting because of this. It's not gonna discourage me. It's just part of the game, man. This the greatest competitors, the greatest athletes go through this. You know, and I think the second take that from that fight, it's kind of like a paradox type of thing right here. So when I lost to Impa, my whole life, everything that's happened in my life, I've had bad things, good things happen. But for Josh Silveira, that was probably one of the more devastating things that's ever happened to me, which kind of sounds like dramatic. But losing $1 million, losing a world championship, it sucked, man. I was down. But then I started thinking about, like, if that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, how blessed am I? How blessed am I to have this amazing life that the worst thing in my life for Josh Silveira is that I lost a finals fight against a honorable guy. While there's people out here that have horrible things happening to their lives, and it's nothing to do with competing. People just live. There's people who have just disadvantages in life and things like that. So I had to appreciate second place, and I had to realize I have a beautiful life, man. That just losing that doesn't mean that I'm I'm some shitty ass Jew now. It's like losing that. It sounds cliche, but losing that is like, it's almost like, be grateful for it, and be blessed that you have this life. So took some time for me to see it from that angle, but yeah, man, how blessed am I to be in the finals fight and lose to him?
Definitely. Now, how long did it take you? How long did it take you to sort of realize that then? Like you're saying, you were down and maybe even a little depressed about coming in second and losing out on $1 million. What was it that pushed you to sort of take that ownership in yourself and realize, you know what? Because that's a very mature mindset.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where MMA is pretty straightforward, right? If you have an issue, most likely you have an issue with yourself. You have problems with yourself. So it was just a matter of time. I got to look in the mirror and be really honest with myself. I come to the gym, I work hard, but what else can I do better? Am I sleeping right? Am I eating right? Am I making the right decisions? You know, and I don't want to use Impa as someone to necessarily use an example, because he beat me and I want to fight him again. I would love to get that fight back, but I had to ask myself that what do you think Impa does that probably helped him with this? He probably sleeps well. He's a big believer in God. He's a big believer in himself. So I had to learn these little things about myself, and it sucks, man. There's nothing else in the world that's amazing and shitty at the same time, and it's accountability. It sucks, but it feels good. It feels good to be accountable and hold yourself to what you want to be in life, and that's nobody else's fault besides you most of the time. Now, some people have things in life that they can't control, but in this particular case, you know, I went in there that night. I thought I was gonna win, and I ended up losing. And that's just
Yeah.
part of MMA.
I know it sounds sort of cliche, but like I watched an interview with Tommy Chong, like Cheech and Chong, and they were on with Bert Kreischer on his cooking show, and Chong said something about the best thing in life is that you can tell your mind to be happy. Like you're in control of your mind. Nobody else is in control of your mind. So you could be like, "Fuck, I'm down and out." No, actually, I'm pretty happy right now. So like if you can control that, which it sounds like you've gotten to a point where you're like you've pushed yourself forward and you've began to think for yourself, and as you said, it's nobody else, it's just you. That's
Yeah.
again a very mature mindset, man. Now this season you took on Sadabu C, and a very weird fight. You were dominating it, and you caused the injury itself. So a lot of people are like, "Oh man, the guy got injured," but you caused the injury to happen. What were your thoughts when that got called?
Yeah, man. So basically, as a Warriors mindset, I'm like, man, that's shitty. I didn't want to win like this. I wanted to prove like that I could actually beat this guy and choke him out. I didn't want to win by breaking his finger, which I didn't. I had no intentions to. It's kind of the way he fell. But as a PFL fighter in a tournament, yeah, man, I was pretty happy. You get in and out. No damage. You got 6 points. But as a warrior kind of mindset, I was like, man, this. I don't know, and that's why you have to have a team around you. Instantly, my team saw me kind of down a little bit, and my dad was just like, listen, you didn't do nothing wrong. At some point, Saudi Blue is gonna have to be accountable for whatever happened, and I'm not saying, hey, fight with a broken thumb. I'm not saying that at all, but man, it's just uh, a weird world, man. MMA is such a weird world.
Definitely. Now you said warrior mindset, but again, like from a tournament perspective, getting in and out of there as quickly as possible, zero injuries on your own part, and you said, the schedule is crazy. So you're going to need getting in and out of there is best case scenario. You take on Rob Wilkinson in June. Uh, how quickly do you find out who that next opponent is going to be?
Usually it takes the times. Usually it takes about 2 to 3 weeks, I would say. By the second week, you kind of know. You kind of listen to the managers of what they're thinking, and by the time they announce that first event, because I'm the second event, right? There's 3 events in a row. By the time they announce that first event, you already kind of know what's happening. So it's about 2 to 3 weeks when they announce it.
Are you pleased with this matchup?
Yeah, man. I think when you look at an MMA career, this is the type of fight where it's just like I could show the world something new. To be honest with you, I could shock the world, right? Rob's tough. He hasn't had really any hard issues in the PFL besides that one hiccup last year where it kind of everything kind of went crazy. But yeah, man, I want to be that guy to take him out, man. I want to be that guy to show, this is my second time I get to fight a world champion, in a row. Saudi B was first. I'm gonna fight Rob, and I'm not the matchmaker. I'm not in control of this stuff, but I'm sure the PFL um would like things to work out the way they want it to work out. If you look at the tournament, there's 4 light heavyweights. I'm sure they want more drama, right? Having champions go into the playoffs, but I messed that up with Saudi Boo, and now I'm gonna mess it up again with Rob. I'm sorry if that's your plan, but
Yeah, well, I mean, so play matchmaker then. If you were to play matchmaker, how do you see this whole thing playing out? Obviously, yourself winning it, but the ride along, how do you see it playing out?
I go beat Rob, and then you got Shoeface and Devlet. I think they're gonna do well in their fight. They got 6 points, and you got Impa. I could see us four and there, but PFL's crazy, man. You never know what could happen. I have 6 points. So does Rob. You know, one of us probably be somebody could be an alternate, and I've already fought in the semis as an alternate. So who knows? Maybe I beat Rob and then I have to fight him again. I don't know, man. It's just you never know what's gonna happen. But obviously the guys who have 6 points, it's already a benefit. It puts a lot of pressure on the guys with the 0 points. So I'm definitely looking forward to the guys who have 0 points. They're gonna put some pressure and try to, you know, beat the stoppage time from what happened in the first event.
Now, you said you learned a lot from that fight against Impa. Going into this fight against Rob, um, how do you feel yourself has changed from 2023 to 2024 then, and going through this tournament all over again as a fighter this time around?
Yeah, man. So I think there were some adjustments in a sense, but I think it's just realizing I don't want to go through that again. It's there. I'm willing to. I'm putting myself there to go through it if I have to, but I don't want to go through that. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of pain and had to bring myself back up. But Rob is tough. Rob is tough, and I'm just gonna take it one fight at a time. I know I have the tools to beat this guy. I know I have the tools to make this a tough fight for him. Um, and I'm just gonna go there and be myself, man. Be myself and really be initiative, right? The big fight for me, the big word I used for my last fight was attitude, right? Attitude. That's the word that I built around against for Sadi Boo because I knew Sadi Boo was a great striker. He's like a 5-time world champion kickboxer. So I knew this fight, I needed attitude, right? Or else he's gonna pitter patter and pick me, hit me there, run away, hit me. That's how he wins his fights, and he's good at it. So I knew I had to be initiative. I had to literally bring the fight to him, you know. And I think for this fight against Rob, I think it's about attitude too. I think it's realizing, hey, I know you're dangerous. I know you've won this before. I know you got a lot of KOs and a lot of stoppages, but I don't give a shit. This is a new fight, and you never fought anybody like me, and I've been in this situation before, and I want to win this shit. And so if I have to screw up the plans, I'm gonna screw up the plans. But this is the beauty about PFL, man. You have a group of guys, you're gonna might fight him or him or him, but there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's why we signed that contract to be willing to fight against any of these guys.
Forget the nickname you've got. You're the plan screwer upper, man. But uh, you said, I said off the hop, I didn't want to like you as a fighter because you beat my buddy Jared. You turned me into a fan going through the rest of those fights because you bring it every single time you get in that cage, man. Like you bring the pressure, you put on the fireworks. You're a guy who likes to have exciting fights. So for people, my final question to you here, Josh, is for the people who are watching this who don't necessarily have never watched you before, what can they expect when you fight Rob Wilkinson?
Man, expect a freaking wild man that's been through the ups and downs. Expect a guy that has lost in the finals. Expect a guy who will walk into a war even though it doesn't seem like it's the greatest battle for him. On paper, Rob beats me pretty well on paper, right? I guess, right? He's bigger, he's stronger, he's this, he's that. He's beaten my teammates, two teammates. Um, so you're looking at a guy who, hey, if he should beat me, he should beat me. But MMA doesn't work like that. MMA does not work like that. Whatever happens on paper doesn't matter on paper. So you're looking at a fighter that knows this, and I know that I could shock the world. And I know when I do beat Rob, the world's gonna be like, "Holy shit!" Um, I didn't think that could happen, but that's that's for those people that have those thoughts, man. All I gotta know is just right in here. That's all I gotta have is up in here, and that's what it is, man. Just have good attitude, um, and be initiative, man, and go take the fight to him. I don't know. I wish I
I don't
could
know.
tell
I
you
wish I
what's
could
gonna
tell you
happen,
what's going to happen,
I don't want to know what's
but
going to happen. I want to watch it. I don't think anyone wants to know. Plans go out the window the minute the first punch is thrown, man.
for sure,
for sure,
for sure.
for sure.
Well, he's Josh Silveira. He takes on Rob Wilkinson June 21st, PFL, next second round of the playoffs of the regular season here. Man, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you joining me today, man. He's going to shock the world, he says. He is the plan spoiler, and he's going to take it to Rob Wilkinson. Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you, and tell
Thank you,
Jared I
and
said
tell
what's
Jared
up.
I said what's up.
I will, man. I
He's a
will.
good guy.
Thanks,
He's a
man.
good guy. He's a good guy.